Good morning, everybody. Welcome to City Hall, welcome to Council Chambers, and welcome to a meeting of the Los Angeles City Council for today, Friday, October 22nd, 2004. The City Council meets every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday at 10 a.m. Meetings are open to the public, and we do invite you to join us. For members of the public unable to attend council meetings, we can be viewed live on your cable station, Channel 35. We can also be viewed live via webcast from the city's homepage or heard via council phone. Members, it is now just after 10:20 a.m. and we have 7 members present, 3 shy of a quorum. But this being Friday, as is customary, we have a number of special presentations and introductions. Let me recognize Councilmember Ludlow to begin presentations today.
Bring the whole delegation. Come on up. Come on up. John? Get everybody. Everybody. I want everybody. Thank you, Mr. President. Good morning, everybody. Happy Friday. In fact, give Friday a round of applause for everybody who gets the weekend off. I'm honored to be here with a number of distinguished leaders from the Korean American community. This has been Korean American Political Awareness Month, and the focus has been trying to increase voter registration in the Korean American community. I particularly want to take a moment to recognize the leadership of Dr. Lee, the president of the Korean American Federation of Los Angeles, for the work that he's done in pulling together this unprecedented coalition. As many of you know, November 2nd is Election Day, and one of the challenges has been trying to get the tens of thousands of Korean Americans who are actually eligible to register to vote in Los Angeles to actually get that voter registration card, fill it out, turn it in, and make sure that they are able to cast their vote on Election Day. Well, the Korean American Federation joined together with a number of great groups, the Koreatown Youth and Community Center, KYCC, Cheongdae, which is a college student organization, the Korean American Coalition, and the Korean Resource Center. They joined together and raised money to essentially sponsor a challenge and a contest. This was originally scheduled to be just during the month of September, but it was eventually extended for a few weeks to match the October 18th registration cutoff. Colleagues, in just over 6 weeks, all of the organizations involved talking to Korean American potential voters about the importance of getting involved in this year's presidential election and the fact that so many critical ballot initiatives were on the California ballot, and not the least of which is a measure Prop 1A dealing with a half-cent sales tax for additional police resources throughout LA County. This group oversaw the registration of 6,000 new Korean American voters. Let's give them a round of applause. So just a few moments ago, I was able to participate in a wonderful press conference where they actually handed out some big checks. And I know those big checks are here. Can somebody hold those up real quick? This is an example of the big checks that were handed out. They handed out $10,000 just a few minutes ago. And I am just honored to be here to present this resolution by the Los Angeles City Council congratulating Korean American Political Awareness Month. And I'd like you to join me in welcoming Dr. Lee.
Thank you, Mr. Lolo. Thank you, council members, for inviting us here to join us here in the city of LA. We had a month and a half of voter registration, and it was very successful. We had 6,000 new voters. Total, we have about, right now, over 30,000 voters, and addition of 6,000 is 36,000 new Korean American voters. And I'm sure this will make some difference in especially the mayor race and councilman's race. So I'm very, very happy that I'm here, and I'm very grateful that all our people here have worked very hard to make this thing possible. Thank you.
Mr. Labange.
Mr. Ludlow, Dr. Lee, and everyone here this morning. That's the beauty of this country, is the steps that people take in coming here and then being full participants in the democratic process. And I just want to congratulate you, Kamsahamnida Chingu, for all the work in empowering people to be participants in our electorate and the importance of that, and choose whoever they choose, but study the issues and make the right decisions for what they feel is best for all people. Congratulations. Thank you very much.
I wanted to just make two acknowledgments as we depart. First, the Korean Resource Center was the overall grand prize winner. How many did they register? 1,900 new voters. Let's give them a round of applause. And the chairman is here. And then the last one I wanted to acknowledge was Chung Dae, the student organization. And why did I want to do that? For all of us here today, I just wanted to put in context what it means to have young people stepping up on the issue of voter empowerment. It wasn't too long ago that we remember the names Cheney, Goodman, and Schwerner, three young civil rights workers who really inspired Freedom Summer. They were brutally killed in 1965 while they were out trying to register people to vote in the South. Then we're reminded of the young student activists who joined with Cesar Chavez to organize the unprecedented voter registration drives of the late 60s and early 70s in California, New Mexico, and Arizona. To hear and see and to be here with young Korean student activists who are taking this issue of Korean American political empowerment very seriously really warms our hearts and really puts it into an overall historical perspective. And so let's give our students a round of applause.
Mr. Reyes.
Thank you, Council President. I just want to congratulate Councilmember Ludlow for his leadership in this process and for the Korean Resource Center. Their presence is going to make a significant impact as we are talking about our youth. What tends to happen in many immigrant communities, we come to this country and we have many cultural norms, many taboos, and yet when our young people come into this country, come to this city, the issues that really impact our young people, the issues of drug abuse and AIDS and things we don't talk about. This resource center is that relief for many of our young people. And to have your support is critical. And I say this with all due respect because working with great people like Mr. Ha and his brother, looking at and working with the churches, as they speak to me about how do we become part of the community, we also have these issues. How do we engage it? And that this kind of facility is going to help stimulate those bridges with all of the issues given the diversity of our neighborhoods. So I just want to congratulate you because these are the steps every group has gone through. The Chicano movement, we've seen the Central American movement in the 80s, and now we see this whole process of evolution coming in the city. And I just want to welcome you and congratulate you and wish you good luck in this great center. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ludlow. For our next presentation, let me recognize Councilmember Reyes.
Council colleagues, I'd like to call up and join me and have joined me the Pico Union Neighborhood Council. Come on up, folks. Let's give them a big round of applause. These are the folks that are taking on a very critical role, and with great pride, I'd like to present them to you. They were certified in June of 2003. Their elections were held March 2004. This neighborhood council addresses a vast community, an area of over 42,000 people. The area essentially goes, if you're going down Normandy, they cover up to the 10 freeway to Olympic. Going down Olympic, they go past Alvarado. The diversity of their board is one as such that it not only reflects all the different cultures and languages in our great city, but it's also made up of people who have a strong history of activism. Each member has taken a role in cleaning up their communities as individuals who are leaders in their rightful place within their groups. They've taken on education issues. They've fought liquor stores. They've brought back to life commercial corridors. They've been anchors to various institutions. They represented great institutions. We have in this area the St. Sophia's Cathedral. We have St. Thomas Church. And I shouldn't have started down this road because I want to leave out some groups. But these are the key anchors that make up a great, great neighborhood. Many folks think of Pico neighborhood, Pico Union, and the negativisms is what we get in the press. But you should see the treasures that we have there in terms of the accomplishments, the projects, the pocket parks, the cleanup programs, the Harvest Festival. I mean, on and on and on. This area has done a tremendous job in making it safer, but has tremendous challenges. So I wanted to acknowledge their great work and present them this certificate of appreciation for exemplary efforts and accomplishments which have been of great value to the community, presented by myself, Ed Reyes, Councilman of the 1st District. And I'd like to give this to the group. Would anybody like to step up to the microphone and share a few thoughts or words? Putting them all on the spot. Please.
Thank you, Councilman Reyes. Ladies and gentlemen, members of the council, it's a very difficult road to operate a young neighborhood council with a little money and equipment to do it. But so far, I think we're on the right road, and we will be accomplishing more and more as we go along and we get the community organized. As you heard, we have so many different communities, and we are trying to change the image of Pico Union, and we will do it. And we hope that we can count with your help and support, as Councilman Reyes has done with us. And I expect that from the rest of the council people here. Thank you.
I want to thank the council, and particularly Ed Reyes, on behalf of St. Sophia Cathedral and all of the support and help he has given on behalf of the council for our LA Greek Fest, which we just celebrated a few weeks ago, and it was a tremendous success. And on behalf of St. Sophia Cathedral and all of the institutions in the area, we want to thank you, Ed, very much for all of your help. It's most appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you, Ted. I also want to take a moment. We had scheduled for today the presence of Mrs. Zoe Chakiris. She's unable to attend because she is ill, but she celebrated her 100th birthday on October 20th. She's a prominent member of the St. Sophia Cathedral. She's the mother of an Academy Award-winning actor, George Chakiris, known for his roles in West Side Story. And again, I just want to thank the council for giving us this opportunity, and hopefully we can continue to acknowledge the great work of our neighborhood council. And today we had the privilege of presenting Pico Union. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Reyes. Next presentation, Mr. Padilla.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, colleagues. Good morning, everybody. I can't believe it's been a year already, but here we are once again partnering with Teach for America and celebrating in the city of Los Angeles as, and doing our part as part of National Teach for America Week. We have, again with us this year, Dana Friedlander and Christy Richardson on behalf of Teach for America. And as I mentioned, next week, October 25th through October 29th, will be National Teach for America Week. And here in Los Angeles alone, we too enjoy the opportunity as professionals from a number of industries, from the private sector to the public sector and nonprofit organizations, journalism, entertainment, and all across the board, to enter the classrooms of the most needy schools and the most needy students in the district and do what we can to improve education, motivate and inspire students and do our part to make a difference in the lives of children and students in LAUSD. As you all know, Teach for America was launched in 1997, and so this marks the 7th year of National Teach for America Week. And in Los Angeles alone, we're doing our part, touching 51 schools and more than 180 teachers in LAUSD, touching 16,000 kids per day, all next week. So here to talk to us a little bit more about Teach for America and the activities next week are Dana Friedlander and Christy Richardson. And which one of you wants to go first? Christy, all right.
Thank you on behalf of Teach for America Los Angeles, Council President Padilla, and all of the city council members here in Los Angeles. As many of you know, Teach for America aims to level the playing field for our city's children, and we do that by asking our top college graduates all over the country to commit to teach in our lowest performing schools. By doing that, we know that we are impacting student achievement immediately, and in the long run, creating a cadre of leaders who will join us in hopefully one day reaching our vision, which is that all children will have the opportunity to attain an excellent education. We could not have made the progress that we have made without the support of the community, which includes many of you here. Thank you again for having us, and thank you for this honor.
Please accept this resolution on behalf of the mayor, myself, and all my colleagues. And interesting note, members, there's two types of volunteers with Teach of America. There's established professionals from different industries that come in and try to share our experiences with the students. And as was mentioned, a lot of recent college graduates that get into the schools, and Teach for America is able to retain about 60% of them in the teaching profession. So certainly making a difference.
Mr. Padilla, before we end, we have a request to speak from Ms. Gruhl.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I'd just like to support, and Alex, appreciate your acknowledging Teach for America. I've had the pleasure of teaching. Thank goodness they didn't give me a grade as to how well I did in teaching, but it's a wonderful experience, not only for the students, but I think for those of us that are elected officials or others that participate in Teach for America, because it encourages that dialogue and understanding about what our young people are thinking. It encourages those young people to go into that profession, whether to be a teacher or to the other professions that you and we encourage people to become elected officials. They don't always go for it, though. We tell them it's a great opportunity to serve their neighborhood and community, but I just want to thank both of you for your leadership in Teach for America, and encourage anyone who's watching today to become a teacher or to participate in Teach for America, and thank you for your leadership on this.
Thank you much. And if I can now ask the group from my district to come forward on this time. All right. Welcome. Thank you for coming. Bienvenidos. Bienvenidos. Members of the council, I'm proud to stand here with the group behind me who are now truly leaders in the San Fernando Valley. I remember more than 10 years ago, probably about 12, 13 years ago, when I was working at Hughes Aircraft thinking, I saw a notice come by in the payroll check that there was going to be some first aid and CPR classes offered that came with certification upon successful completion. And for whatever reason, I decided to sign up. I figured, you know what, it'd be good to know this kind of stuff in case you ever might need it. You hear about accidents, you hear about incidents, so I signed up for the class. And we went around the table before the training began, and people shared their stories of what motivated them to engage this kind of training. And we heard story after story of people saying, I just had a child, and heaven forbid something happened to my child, and I'm not able to help. Or I was at a barbecue last summer, and a child fell into the pool. Or my father or a friend of mine had a heart attack, and I wasn't able to help. So that always weighed in my mind, those stories and what moves people to become trained in first aid and CPR. Certainly after 9/11, we've taken a whole new look at what it means on a community level, and a citywide level, and a national level to be prepared in the event of an emergency. And so over the last several months, we put together a concept of a program in the San Fernando Valley to begin to train people at the community level in CPR for whatever reason. We thought individuals would be better off for it, families would be better off for it, and everywhere people that are trained with CPR go, those areas are safer because of the training they've gotten. We weren't sure how this was going to go over, but we decided to give it a try. And colleagues, I'm proud to say that in 7 short weeks, we've had an enormous response, tremendous response, and more than 93 of my constituents are now trained in CPR that weren't trained before. I can tell you what it's going to mean in the event of an emergency and one of these individuals is there, but I can also tell you on a community-wide basis, and we hope to go district-wide and city-wide soon, what it means for the city of Los Angeles in terms of emergency preparedness in the event of an earthquake, a flood, a fire, or heaven forbid, a stroke, a heart attack, something to that effect. So I want to bring up to speak first one of the neighborhood leaders now by the name of Rosalba Zamora to share her experience, and then we're going to hear from Liliana Torrelio, who's been our instructor here. So first, Rosalba. Oh, here she is. And as Rosalba comes forward, I just want to let all the volunteers know that they're going to be receiving these certificates of recognition, congratulating you on the successful training that you've gotten. Rosalba.
Hi, I'm Rosalba Zamora, and I'm a community rep at Broadus Elementary. In Pacoima, I want to thank Alex Padilla for giving us the opportunity to take the CPR class. That is very important to us to have this training for our own family safety and to help other civilians. Thank you. Thank you.
I have to say, too, colleagues, that we offered the classes and the training in English and in Spanish, and we're privileged to have a bilingual instructor. As you know, sometimes the English language is an impediment towards education or to these types of training, but we knew that CPR training is important enough that we need to just jump that barrier, consider it a hurdle, just clear it, keep going full speed ahead. And I think it has been a special effort for those who otherwise shy away from this type of community involvement to come forward in English or in Spanish and get this training. And actually, to pay respect to them, let me just say briefly in Spanish, para todos ustedes este reconocimiento en verdad es un privilegio para mí. Yo recibí este entrenamiento hace más de 10 años y sé que para muchas personas hay diferentes motivos por cuales recibir el certificado, sea por un incidente en su familia o en su vecindario que ha ocurrido, o se quieren preparar por el caso de una emergencia familiar o de un terremoto, un incendio. Por cualquier razón, ustedes con esta preparación sabemos que sus familias están más seguras, nuestra comunidad está más segura y cualquier lugar donde se encuentran ustedes, nuestra ciudad está más segura porque sabemos que tenemos más gente entrenados por el caso de una emergencia. Muchísimas gracias por la inversión de su tiempo, su compromiso a nuestra seguridad y en verdad muchísimas gracias. Cada uno de ustedes va a recibir un reconocimiento por sus esfuerzos y nos da mucho gusto que estén aquí con nosotros hoy. And if I can now call Liliana, is she here? She's still struggling with parking downstairs? Okay, well, we have a certificate as well for the instructor who has trained, again, more than 93 individuals, 20 of whom are with us today. And so we're going to move to the back and continue with the certificate presentations.
Thank you, Ms. Padilla. Recognize Mr. Labange for a special introduction.
And Alex. Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair.
You laugh all you want. James,
Mr. President, members, we have a very distinguished group that's visiting our city. Very extremely distinguished group from Ghana. It's a business development mission coming to learn about business practices here in Southern California in Los Angeles. We're delighted with our Sister City program on behalf of Mayor Hahn to ask that one of the directors from our fine Cultural Affairs Department, Mr. James Burks, give a little presentation because I want to not mess any of your names up. James, please.
Thank you, Councilman Labange. First of all, I want to say we want to really acknowledge Councilman Labange because through Cultural Affairs, as you know, we're really trying to push our whole sister city relationships around the world because it's very important. As you look this morning, so many diversified cultures in Los Angeles, there's no reason we should not try to utilize that resource itself. There's over 400,000 Africans living in Southern California who are expatriates of Africa. They take advantage of that for investment here in Los Angeles and vice versa. This is one of those missions. So Reverend McKinney here, who's with an organization, the Ghana Trade and Information Office, has been responsible for bringing this fine group of people here. We also want to acknowledge Councilman Parks earlier, who's presented certificates to them, and Elga Sharp of the Mayor's Office, who's responsible for getting them here. They're basically here looking for investments here in Los Angeles and investments in Ghana. I'm going to mention the names because they are very distinguished individuals, so would you like to introduce them? I'm going to ask Reverend McKinney to introduce them, and then we'll talk a little bit more about them, and then I'll ask one of the kings to speak with you. By the way, I'm pleased on the second case, because most of you know me from the African Marketplace that I've been involved in for years, which is about bringing those kinds of resources to Los Angeles. And I was installed in Ghana, in Jashi, myself about 1998 as Nana Kweku Boafo, which means person who brings people together. And I'm happy to be able to bring these people together for Los Angeles. Reverend McKinney.
Thank you so much, Assembly and distinguished guests. I'm honored to introduce, I am the founding board member of the Ghana Trade and Information Office, promoting business and land development in addition to trade and commerce with the country of Ghana and the good peoples of the state of California. We have here His Excellency Osabarimba Kwesi Atta II. He is the Omanhin, or King, of Cape Coast in Ghana, who is standing right here. His Excellency Awule Atiribukusu III. He is the Omanhin, or King, of Axim, which is in the Western Nzima district in Ghana. His wife standing right here. We have Mr. Emmanuel Kofi, who is the head of the District Assembly of the Nzima Axim district in Ghana. And we have Mr. Francis Noki. He is the royal scribe of the Axim Traditional Council in the Axim region. And he is also a war veteran, 80 years old. And we have Catherine Afeku from Atlanta, Georgia, who was one of the organizers of the Axim delegation. And I am Reverend Elizabeth McKinney, the facilitator of the visit.
We hope to bring more as we begin to work. Recently, you know, there were several other countries here, but we want to thank our visitors from Ghana. I understand they've already worked out a relationship with one of the soft drink companies here in Los Angeles to manufacture in Ghana. So there are other deals that are happening here. So this is going to happen more often. So we want to thank the council for welcoming our guests from Ghana. We want to thank Councilman Labange and also Margie Reese, the General Manager of Cultural Affairs, who understands some of the things that we're trying to get accomplished. And Councilman Park just walked in, and we want to thank you for your certificate earlier that you've given to this group from Ghana.
He wants to be king.
Yes.
Say hello. This is Councilman Park. King, do you want to say it?
Yes, yes.
Good morning, Mr. President and council members. Me and my group here have traveled all the way from Ghana to seek business in Los Angeles. The world is getting smaller, so we feel we must also attach ourselves to people who have the know-how to support us and we them, so that together we'll build a good future for ourselves. That's why we are here. We've been privileged to meet people. We've talked to them, businessmen, and we hope that the future becomes brighter for all of us. Thank you.
Thank you, Katie. Thank you.
Thank you.
Take a picture in the back.
And we hope you all enjoy your stay here in lovely Los Angeles, Queen of the Angels. Next up, Mr. Zine.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. And people are wondering if they're parked in metered zones not receiving a citation or in a no stopping zone or something to that effect. It's a free day in LA today. Come on up and join me. We're going to celebrate the wonderful work of a retiring captain from the Department of Transportation, Captain Darrell Robertson. And his crew is here. Come on up, folks. Come on up. We've got 1/4 of the Department of Transportation here with us. All the stars and bars and workers and supervisors, and they're all here to bid a farewell to a man who started in the city of Los Angeles 1970 as a garage attendant with the Los Angeles Police Department. And he then went to traffic officer assigned to 77 Police Division in 1973. We may have crossed paths down there because I was assigned to 77th Street on the LAPD back then. Promoted to the rank of sergeant, lieutenant, and to captain. Shortly after the Bureau of Parking Enforcement Intersection Control was transferred to the Department of Transportation in 1985. Captain Robertson has contributed his knowledge and experience during many disasters and incidents in the city of Los Angeles, including major earthquakes, floods, El Nino rains, riots, national conventions, and the 9/11. He worked the Valley for 9 years, where he supervised 80 to 95 officers and 7 to 10 supervisors and clerks. Currently stationed at the Office of Regulatory Services, coordinating complaint investigations in situation issues citywide. He's received national recognition by the International Parking Institute for his participation in the Valley 410 program. Is that a work schedule? Yes, sir. Okay, 410. All right, the first. Do we want to do a 312? No. Okay. All right, okay. Stay with a 410. I like those modified work schedules. Here we work 7 days, 24 hours a day, so it's okay. Captain Robertson enjoys traveling, and that's exactly what he plans to do when he retires. Exemplary leadership, superior work ethic, which is of great value to the citizens of the city of Los Angeles. And please join me in congratulating, and it's impressive when the crew comes out to show their support, their love, their loyalty to a leader in a department, and to have this type of turnout is a real tribute to Captain Darrell Robertson for the wonderful leadership you've demonstrated and the wonderful accolades and the wonderful job you've done for the city of Los Angeles. And talk about a city of opportunity, to started the police department in '79 as a garage attendant and to rise to this position. And I know how that affects itself because I started as a young police officer and here I am as a city council member. So this is a city of opportunities, a city of open doors, and you have sought those open doors and they've been there. So I congratulate you on behalf of my colleagues, on behalf of the people of Los Angeles, and your colleagues here, your loyal subordinates, and also your supervisors. We have the chief of the department here, Jimmy Price. So chiefs, deputy chiefs, commanders, captains, and all the workers back there. And that's a benefit to the people that you're not out there working right now. So congratulations to you, Captain Darrell Robertson. And I know you're used to barking orders to all the personnel. Get out there and make our streets so we can get traffic moving. So now it's your turn to hit the microphone once again.
Thank you very much, Councilman Zine. It's been truly my honor and pleasure to serve the citizens of Los Angeles, and I'd like to thank you for this document and for the guys to work along with me. Let's keep LA moving. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Zine, and congratulations, Robertson. Next, Mr. Ludlow, have a...
Mr. Zine? Mr. Zine?
Hold on.
I just wanted
Mr. Ludlow.
I just wanted to point out something here. Did you notice two things that he just did? I mean, after 34 years, first of all, he said, thank you for this document, which was an interesting thing to come from law enforcement. And then he was the most brief,
document.
Yeah, document. And then it's the most brief speech that we've ever heard. The way you've moved traffic for the last 34 years is the way you just moved this political presentation. Great job. Have a good week.
DOT, moving traffic in LA.
Mr. Labange?
Mr. Zine, I was out of the room, but I want to thank all those officers from LA DOT keeping traffic moving safely. Captain, thank you for all your work. You're a part of the team that helps Los Angeles get home at night and safely. You really make a difference. Thank you all individually, and especially you, Captain. Thank you.
Next presentation, Ms. Gruhl.
I'll see you in the next one.
At the next one. Thank you, Mr. President. Councilmember Padilla, who I think is in the back room, hopefully will come up to make this presentation with me. I promise I don't bite. Come up close. Okay, now you'll be here. Okay. Well, if you couldn't tell by just looking at the people beside me, we are here to celebrate the 3rd annual Day of the Horse, or Dia del Caballo. I would like to invite all of you to come out and be part of a very unique part of our city tomorrow for the Day of the Horse, which is from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. It is free to the public. Last year, we had Alex Padilla, myself, and Cindy Montañez on horseback. Tomorrow, we will be doing the same. The location is the Gibson Ranch, 9655 Wentworth Street in Shadow Hills. And it's really a spectacular event. It features cowboys and cowgirls, vaqueros and buckaroos, charros, and I'm not sure I'm going to say this right, but escamaruzas, and much, much more. This is a celebration of the history and the heritage of Los Angeles, and particularly for the San Fernando Valley, and the important role that horses and the equestrian community have played throughout our history and in all cultures. Horses and rural lifestyle, a quality of the communities throughout Hanson Dam area and in my community, provides a very unique backdrop for this very special event. It is further enhanced by the multilingual and ethnic approach that reflects the diversity and bond in our communities. This event is sponsored by the Foothill Trails Neighborhood Council, Council District 2, the Warhorse and Militaria Heritage Foundation, the Vaquero Heritage Foundation, and the San Fernando Valley Rangers. Here today, I'm pleased to be able to acknowledge and thank so many individuals who have utilized their resources to educate and commit tireless efforts in assisting the community, and for making the 3rd annual Day of the Horse, Dia del Caballo, a success. I'll get that right next time. And so I'd just like to briefly, we have certificates for all of them that we will present in the back room, but there are a couple we want to just at least acknowledge all of the individuals here. First, Fritz Bonner, who's played a major role in organizing this event. Let's give Fritz a wonderful round of applause. Please, Councilmember Patia. Also, the Autry National Center, who is not present today. Stevie Fielding, who's not present today. But Seal Borman. Seal, raise your hand. Give Seal a great big round of applause. Linda Fullerton and her husband, Mike Fullerton. Heather Burton Gibson. Virginia Hawthorne from the Valley View Vaulters. Sheila Mears from the San Fernando Rangers and Sidekicks, who's not present today. Gustavo Lopez, the New Buffalo Soldiers. Heidi Paul, who's present with us today. Yay, Heidi. Rosendo Solis, who's not present, but Otis Wallace. Also, Otis. We have Terry Kaiser from ETI and Susan from ETI, Cheryl Gressley. And then I just want to mention Sam Larson, who is here, and Barry Bonet, and I mentioned Mike Fullerton. But we have many presentations, but there are two particular people that we'd like to acknowledge today with the Lifetime Achievement Award. For their two respected individuals. One is Doc Larson, who has dedicated his life in caring for animals, and he's a master at building equine trails and a master at reminding both, I think, Alex and myself how important it is to build more trails in our communities. And so today, for that, we commend and honor you. And if we could, Doc, present you with a presentation. We'll ask you to say a few words in a minute after Alex has do that, but I want to also recognize Bert Bonet, who has also dedicated his life to training Mustangs and demonstrated a deep commitment to the equestrian community. And so that we'd also like to present to you this Lifetime Achievement Award. Bert. Sorry, Bert. My boyfriend today, right?
Thank you very much.
Okay. Alex, would you like to say something? We started without you. I apologize.
Well, congratulations, everybody. I was in the back taking pictures, but out here in time to be part of this great presentation. Colleagues, you see us come forward together once a year for the Day of the Horse, and it's wonderful. I'm sorry I'm going to have to miss the celebration tomorrow, but I'm going to be out of town. You know, right before the election tends to be a busy time for politicians, but horses don't have to go vote, and so they get to continue the celebration. Colleagues, I think between these annual celebrations, you see Councilmember Gruhl, Councilmember Smith, or I, or others come forward with these motions that talk about preserving an equestrian lifestyle within the city of Los Angeles. And this is what it's all about. It is real. There are people who live this every day. These aren't get-ups. These aren't costumes. This is life. For a lot of us out there in the San Fernando Valley, we get to get out there and experience what it's like to be on a horse, to live with horses, be on horse trails as part of our community, just like everything else. So when those motions come through here for the master planning of horse trails throughout Hanson Dam, throughout the valley, throughout the city, it's having a real impact on people, and it is important. And when we approved that housing development up at the Cascades just a few weeks ago, and we talked about the fire station, the affordability component, and we talked about the horse trails and the improvement at Stetson Ranch and that equestrian facility, it's because it is part and parcel with the community and what makes living in certain parts of our cities great. So thank you very much for your ongoing support of our events out there. And as always, Mr. Zine, Mr. Weiss, Mr. Parks, Mr. Ludlow, Mr. LaBonge, and others, you're always invited to come on out and take a ride in the San Fernando Valley.
That's right. Yay. I'd like to, colleagues, if I could ask a few people to speak, and one, which for some reason I realized wasn't on our list, was Deb Bauman, who has been very active on this issue. And so I'd like to ask Deb to say a few words, Doc Larson, and Bert Bonet, before we go back there to take our pictures. But Deb, would you like to say a few words?
Thank you very much, Councilmember Gruhl and Padilla. And for everyone here, I want to invite you all to please come out tomorrow to Gibson Ranch and see our beautiful horses and our community strutting its stuff. Dia del Caballo is a celebration that brings together all the horse people of the Northeast San Fernando Valley. We have many different cultures and languages in our area, but we are all united by a love of horses. And you will see that tomorrow, and we'd love to see you all there. Thank you.
Thank you, Wendy, and thank you, Alex, for this warm reception here today, and also honoring all the people here as well. They all represent a broad coalition of horse groups that love to educate and share their passion with all of Los Angeles, the heritage that they have with horses, with the young, the adult, the handicapped, and the disabled. A lot of these organizations do that, and these people represent organizations that represent thousands of people in Los Angeles. They're all equestrians and thousands of horses, which we really appreciate the lifestyle and the celebration of it, and we do hope that you'll all come and join us with this great celebration. So thank you again once.
Thank you for all your leadership. I know you're shy.
You know, I can't hear. So all I want to do is thank you very much from the bottom of my heart. I'm short on words. So thanks. Thank you.
Bert, you want to say a few words?
As unaccustomed as I am to speaking, I'm going to pass it on to the next speaker, which will do a good job.
Bert is 94 years old. He has the secret to longevity. He lives on chocolate and whiskey. He's still riding and breaking Mustangs. That's the other secret.
Well, thank you very much, colleagues, and encourage everyone to come out to the Day of the Horse tomorrow. And if not tomorrow, Alex and I will challenge you all to come out for a ride out in our communities in Hanson Dam and Shadow Hills area. So thank you so very much, and thank you to all the people behind me who have made this event really an extraordinary event in our city of Los Angeles. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Guerrero, Mr. Padilla. And if you folks ever want a great ride, y'all come over to Chatsworth. We'll help you out over there, too. Next presentation, Mr. Labange.
Mr. Smith, I'm going to wait for Mr. Padilla to return momentarily as we talk, but I just had the city clerk to say that we've gone through the roll yet at all, Mr. Clerk. We're still standing by on that. And Mr. Padilla, could you join me right now? He sure is. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the voice of City Hall, Alex Sullivan from KNX News Radio. I would like to invite his wonderful wife, Sylvia. That's right. Come on, Sylvia, get up here. We'll get your camera taken. Mr. Padilla and I would like to salute you. We're going to invite all your family up in a minute, your twin sons. Doug and Gary Sullivan, come on up with your wives and come on up. Give them a hand, the Sullivan family. Mr. Padilla?
Can I say 3 words?
You betcha.
I have 3 words to start. Let's roll tape.
Assignment 72. Silent Spring Revisited. We were mentioning Parker Center, and Alex Sullivan has joined us once again. Alex, what's the latest down there?
Well, the police skirmish lines, the officers in riot gear have...
I'm running alongside, trying to get Bradley, and I said, you know, Mayor, yesterday in the LA Times front page story that these minority enterprise contracts going out to people who are supposed to be qualified, turns out all your friends are getting the contracts. He stops instantaneously, and you knew it was going to happen because I knew underneath that urbane veneer was a short fuse. I knew it had gone off. I go back to 1976 with covering Jimmy Carter and going out to Kansas City where Gerald Ford was, of course, president. John Ehrlichman, your new book, The Whole Truth, has in it the real smell and feel of Washington. He gives me a gift copy of the book, and he signs a flyleaf, and he says, Alex Sullivan, thank you so much for all those months that I was in prison in New Mexico. At night, I would listen to you on KNX 1070. Wow. Alex Sullivan, KNX 1070.
John Ehrlichman.
think we're all reliving a little history here as not just Alex Sullivan, but everybody listening to those news clips. Colleagues, that's what we get when we don't have term limits. We get people being able to serve in their respective roles for 36 years. 36 years doing what he does and doing it very, very well. He must get it from Massachusetts because he's originally from Belmont, Massachusetts, where they take their politics seriously and everybody follows the news, and he's brought that style and that value system to our service here in Los Angeles. I know Councilmember LaBonge is going to say a few words about his biographical history. All I can say is he's won numerous awards, deservedly. He's been the voice of City Hall. He has attended and covered see how many, the last 6 national conventions for both the Democratic and Republican parties, a graduate of Harvard University, and he represents the best in journalism, the best in his profession. We're certainly going to miss the coverage and journalistic responsibility of Alex Sullivan.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Mr. Padilla, as you just mentioned there, a distinguished native of Massachusetts, but came out here, was in Sacramento, was a news director up at the KFBK in the state capitol, and worked for also radio stations in Rhode Island, believe it or not, and New York. He's a winner of several first prize awards from the Greater Los Angeles Press Club, and most recently won first prize for the Los Angeles Economic Summit in his efforts and his work to detail. He has a beautiful voice that just resonates throughout the 50,000 watts of KNX, and as said on that tape, there was John Ehrlichman, the Nixon advisor, who was imprisoned for his deeds in the Watergate affair, and he said when he was sitting in that cold prison, that federal prison in New Mexico, he always could hear Alex Sullivan from KNX 1070. What a beautiful voice and what a beautiful compliment, and I'm glad he was in prison. But we're here to honor you, Alex. We're here to honor you for all that you've done for the people of this city, of this county, of this state, for the commitment that KNX made for all those years, for 36 years, to have you in this city hall to cover the many events here, the elections nights here. You could always count on Alex Sullivan to get the story. And also your quick feet, the track shoes that you must have worn, to run up to the Board of Supervisors to catch the activity, to catch then Kenny Hahn for one of his many press conferences, are now and the mayors that you've served under, Mayor Yorty, Mayor Bradley, and Mayor Reardon, and Mayor Hahn. So all this, you've been the Dean of the Press Corps at KNX 1070, and our President of the City Council and all members today, as well as the Mayor of this great city, wanted to salute you on Alex Sullivan Day here in the city of Los Angeles for your 36 years of service to the people. Congratulations to Alex Sullivan, KNX 1070. Mr. Smith, we're going to take a picture here real quick.
We have a few other speakers first. Mr. LaBonge, Mr. Zine.
Oh, good. Mr. Zine.
Thank you, Alex. I've known you since 1968.
That's right.
I entered the police academy, and you went to KNX. Pardon me?
You were on the motorcycle.
I was on the motorcycle. Our paths crossed many times, and I never, ever wrote you a ticket. Good. Because you always are very professional, unlike Michael Ambrosini, who's hiding over here in the shadows, who drives in a sensible manner now. I never wrote you a ticket either, Michael. But I remember the many years that you've been at KNX, and I heard this morning as I was driving in, you reminiscing on the years that have changed, how the format has changed, but KNX Radio has always been there. You've been that City Hall correspondent, the County Board of Supervisors, and I've seen your dedication. That voice is an impressive voice that has never faltered in all those years, of 36 years, and I know that this retirement was brought about quickly. People were surprised. You, and I'm sure your family knew, but we were taken by surprise. And I remember listening to the radio yesterday, and you did your reports yesterday. And it was yesterday you were still working, so up until that last moment, a man of great dedication, the people of Los Angeles, 50,000 watts, KNX News Radio. And I know that George Nicolau recently retired, you're retiring. Those legends of KNX Radio that many of us in this era, this city grew up with, are now retiring, and I wish you well. I wish your family well. I didn't know you had 2 handsome sons, and they're married, and it looks like one's going to have another little Sullivan coming out pretty soon. So there are those generations that continually move forward. I wish you great success in your years of retirement. I understand you're going to be traveling to Europe. Dottie Sharkey just sent me an email that you're going to be traveling to Europe. And the whole family at KNX has been such a wonderful association. And I remember the days that I worked Hollywood Division, and we received some incidents. We'd have to go to the studio and make sure everybody was safe and secure. Always wonderful people with the LAPD, always wonderful with their editorials, with the reporting, concise, accurate, determined. It's sad to see you go, but I know you've done your term, you've done your years, even up until yesterday, giving those reports on KNX News Radio. So congratulations to you and your family on retirement, well deserved, and wish you great health in your many years of retirement, you and your lovely wife, and see those grandchildren bounce around. So God bless you, Alex, and your family. The best to you in the years to come.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Zine. Mr. Weiss?
Thank you, Mr. President. Alex, I want to wish you the very best. It's nice to see your family here with you. And I just want to tell you, I probably told you this the first time I met you in person, that you are literally a voice and a name from my childhood, because I would drive around with my dad in his Buick, and he was a news junkie, and he listened to KNX all the time, and your name and the distinctive manner with which you say your name, that all of us know and none of us can quite imitate or get right, is something that has just been in my mind really throughout my entire life. And so when I finally met you in person, when I was working across the street, it was such a thrill for me, because you were
that hard charging federal prosecutor.
U.S. attorney. I like it when you say that in those mellifluous Alex Sullivan tones. It was a real thrill for me to meet you in person, because you're someone I had listened to my whole life. And I guess the reason that it meant so much to me, and you know this well, Michael knows it, Steve knows it, is that your medium, unlike print, unlike television, it's so personal. When someone is in the car listening to the radio, that person on the radio is talking directly to you in a more connected, more intimate way than any of the other broadcast media. And so when I first met you, I felt that I really had already known you for so long, and now knowing you for several more years, I'm more convinced than ever that I was right. I knew the real Alex Sullivan through those years and years of driving around with my dad in his Buick. Congratulations to you, and I wish you and your family the very best.
Thanks, Jack, very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Now, I know you're very afraid of the microphone. Mr. Sullivan, would you like to say a few words?
He's going to say a few words in a minute, but Sylvia's wife just told me a great story. They were out in Van Nuys, going to a business in Van Nuys, and
I think she had some faucets, had to get plated or something. She goes into this place. Maybe you ought to tell a story, Sylvia. Put you on mic here, put you on bandstand. Like that rock and roll record in the late 60s, the Big Bopper, put you on bandstand. Remember that one?
Good. But Sylvia Sullivan, this is a great story.
This was just last week, in fact, and I needed the faucet back very quickly, and he asked me my name, and I said what it was, and he has pictures all up on the wall of all of these different celebrities that are autographed. And I said jokingly, if I give you a picture of my husband, will you get the faucet back to me by Friday? And he said, who's your husband? And I told him, and he said, oh, really? I learned English because I used to listen to KNX when I first came to this country, and they speak slowly, and they enunciate everything, and they had wonderful vocabularies, and that's how I learned English.
That's Alex Sullivan. Now, here he is from KNX 1070, reporting live from the City Hall Bureau, from the City Council.
That's right.
Alex Sullivan.
You know, it actually seems like yesterday. It's October 14, 1968. I came down from Sacramento and started covering the mayor as his colorful character, Sam Yorty. He'd been elected in 1961, had a wonderful platform and program. He got all the votes from housewives because he said, if I'm elected, you no longer will have to separate the cans and bottles and newspapers on the pickup time. You can put everything in that trash barrel and that's it. They loved it. He got elected. Terrific. Gets reelected 65. Then I've got to cover the guy, and I discover he has a news conference every single week. and he gets a lot of coverage. Stan Chambers comes in, and Clete Roberts, and everybody, Bill Stout. So I go to this news conference, and I walk in, and they've got this stool and this couple of big telephone books on top of the stool for Sam, because they have to get him up high enough so that cameras can see him. So I figure if he has these news conferences every week, it's a good way for me to find out what's going on, because I'm new in town. I can, get the inside story on developments with the government and politics. So the first news conference, people ask him questions about LA stuff. But Sam seems to change the subject to Vietnam, and he goes to long discussions giving President Johnson advice on how to win the Vietnam War, military strategy. He warns the president not to pay attention to those long-haired pinko war protesters. And I left there, and I thought, my God, this city has a foreign policy all of its own, amazing. So the following week was a surprise ending. Do it again. Sam is there and finishes up, and the TV guys are breaking down the cameras, and the reporter way in the back yells the question at Sam. He's almost out the door. Sam wheels around and said, I can't let that go unanswered. There's allegations in there, et cetera. And he rushes forward, and unfortunately, when Tom Jardine, the press secretary, helped him off the stool with the telephones, the books, it had moved, and Sam came back and said, I want to make something very clear. And all of a sudden, and there was a Channel 2 camera over there about 5 feet, picked it up, and Sam hit the floor, thud, with his posterior. And I think it made the network news that night. So it was one of those interesting ways to get introduced to LA. The following year, of course, Sam runs for re-election. Some guy, Bradley, a former police lieutenant, I think he's on the council, runs against Yorty, and he scares him because in the primary he gets more votes than Yorty, and they went out to the valley and drummed up all those votes, and Yorty won. But Bradley came back 4 years later he came back in 1973, won big, and there was all kinds of coverage around not only in the United States, around the world. First black mayor elected in LA. So I covered the inauguration. Bradley's there. He takes the oath of office. And I think that Pat, the guy on the horse, what's his name, George Putnam, was up there doing this long-winded introduction. And I happened to be standing near where Bradley was sitting, and I had the tape recorder going. And Bradley gets up, the next mayor of LA gets to speak. As Bradley is getting up, he in the sotto voce, he comes off with this Amos and Andy accent and said, here come the mayor, here come the mayor. So I taped it, and I ran it in the morning, and it was amazing. People said, that guy Bradley's such a serious guy. I didn't know he had a sense of humor. He even makes, pokes fun at himself, which was true, because Bradley occasionally, he wasn't on the media or anything. He'd tell jokes, and sometimes he couldn't finish the jokes. He started laughing so much. So it was fun. He had 20 years, 1973, 93, right. And then we had to have an election. There were, no incumbents, and it was going to be a wild, woolly thing. And suddenly some guy surfaces, some Reardon guy. He's very wealthy, millionaire. He was an investment banker or something, and the reporters knew nothing about him except he had been on the board of directors of Mattel Toys and outsourced all the jobs to Mexico. Anyway, he's going to run, and they send me over to the Chamber of Commerce to cover Dick Reardon. He's standing up there, and he says, we have a terrible thing with business taxes in this city. Some companies are paying too much, some aren't paying enough, others getting scot-free. If I'm elected, we'll solve this problem. And we'll do it. And I can tell you right now, as you know, City Council, we don't have a problem with business taxes anymore. We've solved that years ago, haven't we? Or have we? I couldn't resist that one. But anyway, so next, Reardon says, yesterday I had lunch with a CEO of a company in LA. He's going to Burbank, 200 jobs. You can't take this business tax anymore. Reporters are back there. They look and they say, one reporter says to the other guy, what was that company that's going to Burbank? And they said, well, he didn't say what the name was. So we'll get him when he finishes. But you have to understand, in '93, when Reardon was running, they had him like in a bubble. I think some guy out of Pasadena, some powerful attorney, William Wardlaw, ran the show. And so they had like handlers, treating him almost like the Pope. So when he comes out there, the reporters, the first question, what's this company going to Burbank, 200 jobs? Dick waves, hey, it's great to see you guys. Question again, you're doing a heck of a job. And the handlers are moving, and there's a limousine over here, back door's open. And they're moving Dick. And another question, finally the last question, the 200 jobs, the door closed in the limousine, it takes off. You know, even to this day, we do not know whether he actually had lunch with that CEO the previous day, whether those jobs really went to Burbank. We will never know. It's like the Twilight Zone. Certain things in LA politics, they ask the question, you don't get the answer. You just have to take it on faith. I mean, that's the way it goes. But anyway, it was kind of fun. And by the way, Reardon, he got a lot of favorable notice because he gets elected, and the first thing he does, he hires this guy, I think McCarley or something, William McCarley, chief legislative analyst. Everybody said, this guy Reardon is brilliant because McCarley works for the city council. He knows people in Sacramento, Washington. Boy, is this guy Reardon smart. But McCarley only stays there like less than a year. He goes to the DWP. Then there's another chief of staff. And it's almost like, you know, the LA Clippers with coaches coming through, you know. It's amazing. So finally, a couple of years later, I'm at this luncheon, and I see this guy who was a deputy mayor under Reardon, no longer, and I won't name him. So I go over and I ask him, I said, you know, what was it like working with Dick Reardon? I mean, things look kind of unexpected, and sometimes you make a statement in the morning, they put out a clarification in the afternoon, and you seem kind of impulsive and everything, you know. And he said, Alex, you understand, Dick Reardon has a short attention span. He explained the whole thing. But anyway, Dick did well. He stayed in 2 terms. In 97, some guy, Tom Hayden, ran against him. And people thought this Hayden is really going to cream him. It didn't happen. I mean, Reardon won big. Afterwards, I bumped into him, and I said, Dick, people were worried about you with Hayden. And he says, oh, he micromanages. I said, I don't understand. What do you mean? Well, he likes to be his own campaign manager. You know, he puts out all those big reports on reforming government. I said, you're right. I covered those news conferences where Hayden would put out all this stuff, and Reardon says, I know you did. I know you covered it. We used to send 2 or 3 people in with phony press credentials. We'd ask Hayden all these complicated questions, get them all tied up. But anyway, here we are, and I'm not going to be around for another election coming up. Big question, Jimmy Hahn, will he be a Teflon guy, charges coming at him, or will he not? But some days, recently, you walk into this chamber, and there's electricity in the air. Even if it's a slow day, nothing happening. And you kind of look over to Bernard and Antonio, and you kind of figure what they're thinking. The first month in the corner office, I'm doing this to DWP, I'm putting this person on the Public Works Board, and the most important thing, I'm putting LAPD in a 5-day, 40-hour week. I mean, I'm not a mind reader. I kind of think that's what they're thinking, you see. But anyway, that's it. It was fun doing it, and we'll be watching this next election. Thank you very much.
Alex, thank you. Hey, Alex. Sylvia. 36 years. Eric, how old are you? 33. So Eric was 3 years before Eric. God bless Eric. But this is a monumental sign. Alex Sullivan, the voice of City Hall, 1968 to 2000. And also, Alex, we all wanted Sylvia, you to have this special prize right here. Mr. President, one moment.
I think Mr. Labange wants to take a 2-minute recess for
We're
a
happy
photograph.
to have our twin sons here, Gary and Doug, and a little plug, they operate VIP systems out in Westlake Village. They install home audio, burglar alarms, commercial and residential. Hey, that's terrific. And they're the king of low voltage. Alex Sullivan, the voice of City Hall from 1969 to 2004. And they've got a picture up there. How'd you do that? That's amazing. That's amazing. Okay. Here we go.
We'll take a 2-minute recess for a photograph.
Ready to roll?
Mr. President, we have representatives here from KFWB, Pete Demetrio, and Michael Ambrosini from KNX Radio, and they have a couple comments to make to the retiring Alex Sullivan, if we can indulge the council for a few moments. Pete Demetrio, KFWB, News 98.
Permission to extend the remarks on Mr. Sullivan, if we would. I'm speaking not only on my own behalf as a former competitor of Alex, but also in spirit for my colleague who shared those offices next to him for many years, Charles Surges of KFWB. I spent about, I'd say, 17 years, close to that, being in close proximity from this man, and it rubs off on you. He's one of the few people I know who has managed to deal with two of the three oldest professions of mankind and still managed to retain his essential honesty and integrity. I'm talking about politics and journalism. The third one, we'll let it figure out in that respect. The one thing that Alex was not able to have completely rub off, though, is his choice of clothing. I mean, I tried to keep up with him for years with a suit and tie. I finally couldn't do it. 30 years later, he's still a suit and tie and as dapper as ever, which is a great thing. I say also as a former competitor, because now we are owned by the same company. Sort of funny, because after the merger went through and Westinghouse bought CBS, which means we bought you, Alex, never forget that, I did come up and I shook your hand. I said, we're now on the same team. And it's a credit to that great gentleman. He says, we've always been on the same team. Journalists are out there to do one thing, to get the truth out. Alex, nobody does it better.
Michael Ambrosini, KNX News Radio.
I'll be brief. Nobody ever got inside this building any farther than Alex Sullivan did. Alex had his heart and soul in this place and in city politics, and he knew it forward and backward. And if I stayed here 36 more years myself, I could never do that job. I'd just like to relate one story. When I first met Alex, we were actually working together on the air. I think we were co-anchoring, as a matter of fact. This was in the early 80s. And I was a little bit new at this business, and I was on the air one day, I remember, and Alex was beside me. And they brought in a breaking story. It was something important. I let it get buried in the news copy, and I'm just reading along whatever had come before, whatever they'd put in front of me before. I just covered the thing up, and I kept reading. And Alex said, he pulled it out, he handed it to me, he said, "That's breaking news. Do this now. It's the name of the game." And I never forgot it. Thank you, Alex, for everything.
Thank you very much. And I believe that completes our presentations for today. Mr. Clerk, first order of business, please.
That would be calling the roll.
Please call the roll.
Cardenas, Garcetti, Gruel, Hahn, Labange, Ludlow, Miskowski, Parks, Perry, Reyes, Smith, Villaraigosa, Whiteside, Padilla. 11 members present and a quorum, Mr. President.
Thank you very much. The council is officially in session. Next order of business, please.
Approval of the minutes.
Mr. Smith moves. Mr. Garcetti seconds.
Commendatory resolutions for approval.
Mr. Cardenas moves, and Mr. Parks seconds.
On the regular agenda, items 1 through 29 are items for which public hearings have been held. Committee reports for items 14 and 20 have been circulated. And on item 22, there are 2 reports on file. A motion is required.
Okay. Which item? Do we need a motion?
Item 22.
22. Mr. Parks moves the Budget and Finance Committee on item 22. Members, items 1 through 29. Now before us, public hearings have been held in committee. A motion from the floor would be required to reopen the public hearings. Seeing no such motion, any specials? Mr. Parks?
Technical amendment.
Okay. Is that being circulated, or you want to offer a verbal?
Pardon?
You want to offer a verbal?
Verbal.
Or is that?
Yes.
Let's go ahead and make that
we
known.
ask that all of the requests for the ordinance be done prior to February 1st.
Okay. With that amendment, we'll consider item 5. Any other specials? Members, items 1 through 29. Seeing none, let's open the roll, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
11 ayes.
Those items are approved. Next items, please.
Items 30 through 47 are items for which public hearings have not been held. 10 votes are required for consideration. A motion is required on item 34 inasmuch as it was submitted without recommendation.
Okay, members, items 30 through 47 now before us. I do not have requests from members of the public to address the council on these items. Public hearings are open and closed. Specials, Mr. Garcetti.
Thank you, Mr. President. Number 44, please.
44, call special by Mr. Garcetti. Any other specials? We do need a motion on item 34. If we don't get
I'll move the
motion on
committee
item
report.
34. Okay, Mr. Garcetti moves on item 34.
The item was submitted without recommendation. The recommendation is the Municipal Facilities Committee.
Okay, let's hold it temporarily on the desk. On the balance of the items, Mr. Clerk, please open the roll, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
Those are approved. Next item, please.
On the continuation agenda, item 48 is an item notice for public hearing. The Housing Committee has submitted a report, and that has been circulated to all members.
And we do have cards in item 48. Let's call that special and hear from members of the public.
Are we required to?
Next item, please.
That would take you back to the items called special or the public comment.
Item 44, Mr. Garcetti.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm actually going to do this from the podium since there's some other folks that are involved in this. So. This is item 44 that is before us, but it's also a bit of a presentation as well. Want to thank Council President for letting us take this first, and I want to thank, of course, Paula Petrata, Executive Director on the Commission on the Status of Women, who we'll hear from in a second. Sunday, October 24th is United Nations Day, colleagues. This is a day that was established by a presidential proclamation by the United States President in 1945 to commemorate the creation of the United Nations, which now has more than 180 members. Recognizing the problem of unequal treatment of women, which leads to illiterate societies, poor maternal and child health, the overall low levels of development in every corner of the world, the theme that is selected for this year's United Nations Day is women's rights and empowerment, the Millennium Development Goals, and gender equity. We recall in these very chambers having the Secretary General Kofi Annan here, and we affirmed, Mr. Padilla, the Millennium Development Goals. One aspect of that is gender equality. And when we see throughout the world that one of the quickest ways to improve education, to improve family health, is to improve gender inequities, to make sure that women have the same opportunities, that girls have the same opportunities that men and boys do, and that we try to make sure that greater equality as well is achieved. The Millennium Development Goals include the promotion of girls' education, maternal health, the role of women in politics, and the Convention on the Discrimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women, also known as CEDAW, which this city made history in affirming its largest city to do so because we have not been able to get passage and confirmation of that at the Senate level. Many cities have taken that on. We've been the largest city, and we are busily at work on the implementation of what that means for our own city departments and the policies of this city as well. Today, Council will consider declaring this Sunday on this item, item number 44, October 24th, United Nations Day in the city of Los Angeles. And it's an historic occasion, and I'm proud of my colleagues for recognizing the importance of this day to us here in the city. I'd like to thank the Commission on Status of Women, Paula Petrata, and the entire staff. And I'd also like to recognize today women in the community who have empowered women both locally and internationally, and whose life work reflects spirit embodied in this year's United Nations Day theme. This weekend I was hoping to be in Ethiopia, but could not make it there. A good friend of mine who I know you all have seen here in council chambers, Boge Gebre, is celebrating a day around United Nations Day working against female genital excision in Ethiopia. And there are people around the world who are joining with us. This isn't just something happening here, but throughout the world who are affirming a greater commitment to gender equality. The certificates I'll be presenting today read the following. This is in recognition of your dedication to promoting equality and empowerment for women. You embody the vision of CEDAW and the United Nations mandate to achieve international cooperation in solving problems of an economic, social, cultural, or humanitarian character. Let me tell you a little something about the accomplished and distinguished women who are here with me today. Ms. Billie Heller has probably been the strongest voice in the United States for the passage and ratification of CEDAW. She's the founder and current chair of National Committee on the United Nations Covenant on the Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women, and also the co-founder of the U.S. Committee for UNIFEM. She's the Southern California chapter and member of the Southern California chapter and co-founder of the California Women's Law Center as well. Dr. Leila Al-Mariati is the spokeswoman and the spokesperson for the past president of the Muslim Women's League, the MWL. She spearheaded the MWL's efforts on behalf of rape survivors in the war in Bosnia in 1993 and was a member of the official U.S. delegation to the UN Conference on Women in Beijing in 1995. Ms. Jane Burtis chairs the Southern California Regional Council of Organizations and is affiliated with United Nations USA chapter, UNA USA chapter. She has supported women and children in Bosnia, in Kosovo, in Iraq, and spearheaded drives among the Soroptimist clubs here in Southern California. Ms. Jane Jaquette, who had to leave, was my boss over at Occidental College. She actually hired me when I taught there, and she teaches diplomacy and world affairs at Occidental College and is a specialist both in Latin American politics and also women's empowerment. Much of her work in the past few years has focused on women's movements in Latin America, and among her many affiliations is her work in the Women's Development Office of the UN Agency for International Development, and being president of the Association for Women in Development and the co-founder of the Southern California chapter of UNIFEM. She's currently finishing a book on women, gender, and development called Institutions, Resources, Mobilization, Women and Gender Equity in Development. We also have Ms. Gilma Gonzalez with the Carl Bean Home. She became a parent and an activist and a patient advocate in 2001 when her best friend passed away due to AIDS at 21. She's worked tirelessly to help people with AIDS and HIV obtain public benefits, find support groups, and housing. And she raises funds to provide medication free of charge for children who have AIDS in Uganda, which is such a critical aspect. Even though AIDS drugs can sometimes be somewhat cheaper in Africa, it is still proportionally out of most people's reach. And she collects food and clothing for people affected with AIDS in El Salvador. Cynthia Davis is assistant professor at the Department of Family Medicine at the Charles Drew University of Medicine and Science and one of LA's best-known AIDS activists. She's the founder of Dolls of Hope initiative to develop community mobilization efforts to break the silence of HIV/AIDS. Dr. Gail Wyatt is the first African-American woman to be licensed as a psychologist in California. She's a trained sex therapist, a fellow of the American Psychological Association, and the National Institute of Mental Health research scientist. Her research examines, among other things, the consensual and abusive sexual relationships of African American and white women and their risk for STDs, including HIV/AIDS. And last, Ms. Kelly Hayes Raitt visited Iraq and spoke to hundreds of women and children, has written a series of columns in local newspapers and conducted dozens of interviews in an attempt to put the often ignored women's face on international politics and on our international policies. Ms. Hayes Raitt is currently president of Coast to Coast Community Campaign. And I'd like to ask for your vote today. Since this isn't a formal presentation, we'll be giving these certificates back in the press room, but I'd like to ask Kelly Hayes Raitt to come forward, and she's going to give a quick 2-minute PowerPoint presentation, and then I would ask for your support today in this item. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. I appreciate it. Thank you. Here you go. There, thank you. Hi, this is a council point presentation. Okay. Let's get back to the beginning here. Okay. Yeah.
Somebody with a mouse probably.
Good morning, I'm Kelly Hayes Raitt, and I visited Iraq last February, about 5 weeks before the U.S. bombings and invasion. These are some of the women and children that I met while I was there. These are women who were working at a sewing factory and invited us up to talk about their concerns about the impending war. They were so thrilled that a delegation of American women had come all that way to bring back their message of peace to us. And this is their message of peace. I went back to Iraq in July at the height of the occupation to have a chance to see what kind of an impact our war had had. We dropped 90,000 tons of explosives over the entire country of Iraq during the Gulf War in 1991. We dropped 10 times that amount in just the first day of bombing just Baghdad.
This is Sura. She's 12 years old, and I had a chance to meet her at the Amaraya Bomb Shelter, which was a shelter in 1991 where over 400 Iraqis had gone to escape a night of bombing during the 91 Gulf War. The Iraqis have turned this bomb shelter into a memorial because during the 91 war, we dropped bombs there and killed nearly all of the people who were there. While I was there, Sura showed me on the wall the places where there are still burn marks and blood stains and places where human flesh is still clinging to the walls from the people who died there. As I left this bomb shelter, I realized that this young girl had been born the year of the Gulf War, and that during her short life, she has known nothing but recovering from one war and then preparing for this last war. Of those many explosives that we dropped, this is one household that's near Saddam Hussein's main palace outside of Baghdad. These were bullets that pockmarked this family's home. We dropped these bullets, these bombs, at 5 o'clock in the morning while families were on their way, while men were on their way to pray at mosques. These are Iraqi orphans. One of the impact that the Gulf War had in 91 is that it so debilitated the standard of living in Iraq that people literally went from 90% of Iraqis having access to health care to literally every other family experiencing the death of a child under the age of 5. This is where people were at before we started this last bombing. This is Mustafa. He's 9 days old, and he's dying of leukemia. During the Gulf War, we dropped 320 tons of, or used 320 tons of depleted uranium in the bullets during the Gulf War. The UN estimates that we used between 1,000 and 2,000 tons during this last war, and it's had a major impact on the children of Iraq. There's been an increase in childhood leukemia and birth defects and stillbirths. Our soldiers have been exposed to this depleted uranium as well. What moves me about this photo is the mother, Sena, who's just pouring everything she has into trying to protect and comfort her dying infant. And for me, this is really emblematic of the strength that women have around the world in war zones. And I think it shows the impact that we can have locally as we work with women in foreign communities. And that's why this United Nations Day proclamation is so important today. Thank you very much.
So again, want to thank these distinguished women who work locally, who work nationally, who work internationally for being here today. Ask you for your support on this item today, and I'll return the podium back to our President. Thank you very much, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Garcetti. Other members of the council wishing to be heard on item 44? Seeing none, let's open the roll, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
That is approved. Next item, please.
Item 34 was being held for a motion from the floor.
And Mr. Weiss moves the Municipal Facilities Committee report. If there's no further discussion, let's open the roll, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
That is approved. Next item.
Item 48 was called special for cards from the public.
And I understand that people who have submitted speaker cards wish to bypass their public comment today, since they had an opportunity to do so in committee just a few days ago. But I will read their names into the record. Dr. Perry Crouch is here in support of the proposal, along with Helena Porter, Tony Howell, Joe Hubbard Jr., Andrea McGeer, and Donald McGee as well. So this will open and close public comment on item 48. Members of the council wish to be heard on this item. Mr. Parks?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This item was thoroughly gone through at the Housing Economic Development Committee this week. I think all of the issues have been resolved, and the language is, certainly has been tightened up, and the deal points clearly have been put in place to where the city's finances are well protected until progress is made on each element of the project. And so I appreciate those who are here today that came at the hearing at the committee, but I'd ask for an aye vote that we move this item so that we can move forward on this 20-year dream of the community of getting this shopping center finished.
Mr. Garcetti.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. I'd like to make one amendment just to change in recommendation number 12 where it says adopt, to make that concur because it's a slightly different action. And just the abbreviated version, I think we have scrubbed this over a number of times. I want to thank Mr. Parks and his staff for their good hard work on this. The CLA and the CAO, CDD, and CRA, this has really been a labor for many different parties. And the 2 points I'd like to just make today is, one, when this came before us before and we wanted to protect block grant money, the good news is $900,000 of block grant money will be returned from what our initial allocation was to be. That will help cover things like the Handy Worker program and other commitments that we have made to all communities throughout Los Angeles. The second piece, which was whether or not block grant money could be used under the change of scope in this project to having some market rate condominiums for that, that's been resolved with the developer. We appreciate the developers, in plural, flexibility on that so that that continues to be a good use of block grant money, and that policy decision, I think, keeps us in good stead. And so with that, this has certainly my full support, the committee's unanimous support, and I urge your passage.
Mr. Dudlow.
Thank you, Mr. President. I wanted to thank Councilmember Parks for his work on this. It's been a tremendous effort, and yesterday in committee we had great testimony and I think a real spirit of partnership amongst all city agencies, and so just real thrilled to see this happen. People in the Crenshaw corridor know this is a day that's long overdue. So colleagues, I urge an aye vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ludlow. Other members of the council wishing to speak on item 48? Seeing none, let's open the roll, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
11 ayes.
That is approved. Next item, please.
Now would be time for comments from the public on non-agenda items.
Okay, this is general public comment for today's meeting. The council calls forward Ms. Sylvia Lynn Hawkins, followed by Walter Bechtel, and our delegation from the South Central Farmers, and Donna Doherty as well. If we can put up a clock, please. Ms. Sylvia Lynn Hawkins going once, going twice. Walter Bechtel, Donna Doherty. Go ahead, sir.
Okay. I want to follow up about the problem at the Ford Hotel located at 1002 East 7th Street. I had already come and said something about that once before. I also wanted to address another issue having to deal with some other problems with illegal wiretapping and other problems at the Ford Hotel. I think that some people feel that it's okay, or some owners feel that it's okay to wiretap or eavesdrop tenants within their hotels or their apartments. It's not legal to do that. And I wanted to address that issue because it's a major problem, especially in the music industry. We have people who openly admit stealing lyrics from other artists. I have a fine art degree. I graduated from UCSD in 1979. That's the same university that the poet laureate, who was recently found to have been fraudulently graduated from another university, was removed from.
May I ask you to conclude, please, sir? So we can
Okay,
hear
I
from
just
other
want to
speakers?
say that I don't appreciate, and I would wish that the city would not allow private detectives to be allowed to wiretap and be more aware of that fact. Okay?
Thank you very much. Ms. Doherty?
My name is Donna Doherty, and I'm here as a representative of the Griffith Observatory Access Initiative. We have a paper here, two papers that came from the Recreation and Parks Department, and this lovely picture shows you where the disabled can go. At the bottom of the picture here, it says path of travel for the disabled access. We start at the front steps. No design has ever even been considered for that front access. Nothing. It's been blocked totally all of the years in this process of renovation. And so disabled will have to go all the way down to the end of the wing, around the back door in one door instead of 4 doors at the front, all the way back to those front doors to get into the planetarium. And we are currently, the Special Education Department of the LASUSD is currently trying to mainstream disabled children into the regular classes. What does a teacher do with 35 students up there and one in a wheelchair? What do people do who have children in strollers? This is wrong, and we are, and now this is my 5th year as a volunteer trying to get access there, and to think that $39 million, there's $31 million out of this city. You alone gave $3 million after the $28 million from the 2 propositions.
Thank you, ma'am.
$6 million from the state, $2 million from the federal government now as of a couple months ago. Why cannot we have access? There are 2 people at the top that are using all of our money to do what they want.
We appreciate you
need-
being here, ma'am. Let me ask you to conclude at this time, but we have heard you, and let me ask the
Can I
South
just
Central Farmers to
show-
come forward.
UCLA is a perfect example of what we can do, the Powell
I'd like to
Library.
talk to Ms. Doherty, because we have a difference of opinion because of the access, but I'd welcome that if you could assign me to that.
Sure, absolutely.
I'd appreciate that very much. Thank you.
Okay. Next speakers, please.
Good evening, City Council members. My name is Alberto Platoa, and I'm a student at East Los Angeles College. And I'm here to express the anger that our community has towards John Perry due to her decision to remove the South Central Farmers from 41st and Alameda in order to build warehouses. I've seen the many benefits that the community has brought from the gardens. It provides fresh fruits and vegetables for my family and for many other families that need them. And I don't believe it's fair that we are treated this way. I believe that everybody in this room has fresh fruits and vegetables in their homes. We are the ones who are feeding your families. And why should we be treated like dirt? I don't think it's fair. And I'm asking you, so in support for the South Central farmers, we need the space to provide more fruits and vegetables for our families and yours. And that's all. Thank you.
Again, one more time for the record, Miguel Angel Perez, Los Angeles Land Use Coalition, speaking on the topic South Central Farm and support of the farm. Again, what was said before me is the truth. Every day, there's food, fresh fruit, vegetables on your tables. And it's brought to you by campesinos, people who work the land. And again, one more time in Los Angeles, at the farm, aquí estamos y no nos vamos, tierra de libertad. Gracias.
Thank you very much. This concludes general public comment for today's meeting. Mr. Clerk, next item, please.
Council has motions for posting and referral.
Motion shall be posted and referred.
There are excuses on the desk. Councilmember Labange requests to be excused to arrive at 11 a.m. on Wednesday, October 27th for city business, meets council policy.
Mr. Labange is excused.
Councilmember Parks requests to be excused Tuesday and Wednesday, October 26th and 27th for city business. A motion is required.
Ms. Perry moves. Mr. Parks is excused.
Councilmember Hahn requests to be excused to arrive at 11 a.m. on Wednesday, October 27th for city business. A motion is required.
Ms. Gruhl moves. Ms. Hahn is excused.
And Councilmember Padilla requests to be excused on Tuesday, October 26th for city business. A motion is required.
Mr. Cardenas moves. Excuse is granted.
That clears the desk, Mr. President.
Okay, thank you very much, colleagues. This is the end of our agenda. Do we have any announcements today? Announcements today. Ms. Gruhl.
Thank you, Mr. Padilla. And on behalf, I think, of you and me, announcing the Day of the Horse tomorrow from 10, starting at 10 in the morning, and hope that everyone will participate. If you need further information, to call either my office or Councilmember Padilla's office.
Thank you very much. Other announcements? Other announcements? If not, then Mr. Cardenas, if you're available tonight, it's homecoming at San Fernando High School. Parade's at 6 o'clock, games at 7 o'clock. I believe it's against Reseda. So, Mr. Zahn, you're welcome to come out to the home of the Mighty Tigers.
I mean, King.
No. Other announcements? Do we have adjourning motions today? There's no adjourning tributes. Thank you all very much. Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Cardenas, Garcetti, Gruel, Han, Labange, Ludlow, Miskowski, Parks, Perry, Reyes, Smith, Vitagoso, Whiteside, Padilla.
This meeting is adjourned.